Welcome in to yet another episode, edition, whatever you want to call it. Section YY podcast, Negative Nease and Harb coming to you. No special guest this week. Um, had Thomas T Money Reigns lined up to be our guest here on the show this week. Guest picker, I guess, guest commentator. But he has had to back out in the last like 15, 20 minutes. So no guest on this week. You just got me and Harb, the Team 3D, as we used to call ourselves.
Tried and true.
Yes, sir. Three. Um, I'm in the Section YY8 kitchen this week, Harbin. I gave up my office for my roommate to study for test tomorrow. So um, I'm here in the kitchen.
Sad
Just
studios have been taken over.
yes, unfortunately, but it's okay. Y'all get to see a different part of the studio here, so it's cool.
Very nice.
Sound might not be as good, but whatever. Let's see quickly before we get going. Last week's guest, Jake Minot, you caddied for him this weekend. For those that don't know, tell everybody how he did. I know how he did, but tell the listeners who may not know.
The week went well. It wasn't the prettiest, but sometimes life's not pretty, and you gotta make chicken salad sometimes. And that's exactly what Mr. Minot did. He needed to finish in the top 34 this week, and he finished tied for 14th. So quarter math, that's good enough, and that works.
There you go.
It was very promising because he did not have his A game, and he would probably tell you he didn't even have his B game, and he still figured a way out to survive and advance, Jimmy V style.
That's what you said last week. That's what it's all about. In this like setup, I saw Jake yesterday. He came by the tailgate for like 5 minutes and said, "Hey, I'll be back. I got to go take this Smoky Mountain Country Club hat, Make America Great Again hat over to a buddy of mine, and I'll be back." But we talked for a few minutes before he went, and I was like, "Hey, man, I heard you didn't play as well as you hoped, but you advanced, and that's really all you got to do. It's not." I was telling Slagle here, I think the other day, I was like, it's not about winning necessarily. I mean, I guess there's not really technically a winner, is there? So,
Not in this stage or the next stage. You get a little bit of a bonus if you win the next one or the one after that. But for this week, no, it was just
uh,
about doing what you got to do, and he did.
so where's he going? Like, what's the next step here?
So he just qualified. He just advanced through pre-Q. The next stage is first stage. We still don't know where he's going to be playing. I believe he said he will find out at the end of this month. And there's
Oh,
10 sites. There's 10 different sites that he could go, but um, more than likely he'll be in the southeast unless they completely screw him. But I doubt that'll happen because he didn't make the cut on the number. He gave
yeah.
himself some leeway. Um, Kind of looking at either Florida, Alabama, or North Carolina. Out of those options, his number one's North Carolina. It's a course that he knows decently well. So we'll see, and we will update our
Yeah.
loyal listeners and let everybody know.
Yeah.
Um,
He asked, he asked, how the numbers look for the episode. And I said, well, we had quite a few views on the YouTube. And he said it was the Jake Minot effect.
he's good for business.
It is. Jake Minot is good for business.
He is.
What?
People love hearing from professional athletes.
Yeah, we've had two on the show in the last month and a half. Crazy.
Stock is rising.
Yeah,
I'm,
there we go.
I'm glad I bought low. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. A lot of people bought low in the YY8 podcast.
That's right.
So we'll get Jake back on at some point, maybe closer to when he has to go back to the next stage. So we'll keep you guys updated on that once we find out where he's going. You'll see my hat here real quick, Harbin. Shout out Tennessee Smokies. Went up to Smoky Stadium, probably I would say for the last time last Thursday night. They beat Birmingham, I think 5-2 or 5-3. Well, I was trying to find somebody. I worked up there for several years when I was in college. Started out on the cleaning crew, which meant getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning, picking up people's trash that they just threw on the ground after the game, and then taking a backpack blower, blowing all that loose trash to the center of the stadium, sweeping that up, cleaning the dugouts, all that, cleaning bathrooms, all that fun stuff. And then worked in the parking lot for several years after that. So I was trying to find somebody up there to see if I could dig up some of the asphalt out of the parking lot. Instead of the players getting dirt, I could pick up some of the asphalt and take it home with me. But not sure how I would have done that, but needed a jackhammer, I guess. But kind of bittersweet seeing that stadium go. I've went to a lot of games up there and worked there for years. So hate to see it go, but it's gonna be cool having it in Knoxville though. So shout out Tennessee Smokies.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to the Charlotte Knights, the AAA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. Um, they may have one of the coolest ballparks I've ever been to, including major leagues. For those unaware, I'll keep it short. Their stadium is pretty much in the heart of downtown Charlotte. And if you sit on the third baseline, you have a perfect view of the Charlotte skyline. And to put context, if somebody hits a home run far enough, like it's going in the street, like it's going in the four lane.
Yeah.
That's how it's in there. But we went to a doubleheader, and in between games was when it got dark, and they cut all the lights off, and you just had the Charlotte skyline, and it was. I'll send the picture to Nice, and maybe you can put it in the YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
it's
um
the coolest views I've ever seen
I've
at a ball field.
I've never been to a game there, but I've been by it several times. That is a cool view. It kind of reminds me of Pittsburgh, PNC Park a little bit. I think Knoxville's new stadium will kind of be like that a little bit, not on the first base side, but I think if you're on the third base side, you'll be able to see a little bit of what little skyline Knoxville has. The First Horizon building or the TVA towers. I don't think you'll be able to see the Sun Sphere, but um, you'll get a little bit of that in Knoxville. But yeah, that is a cool stadium. I've been by it 2 or 3 times. Really cool backdrop. Did they win?
First game, no. Second game, I'm not sure. It was two 7 inning games, and we left
Yeah, gotcha.
after the third or fourth inning, I think. Um,
Gotcha.
uh,
Well, oh,
former
sorry, go ahead.
Reds. So sorry. One of their starters was a former Red Sox player, Michael Chavis.
Oh
He's had
yeah.
a fall. He's had a fall from grace. Can't make the White Sox lineup, so it's pretty bad.
That is, if you can't make the White Sox roster right now, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he was on a rehab assignment. Like he he had a decent amount of stats for AAA, and yeah, it was a fall from grace because he had probably a 2 month stretch. I mean, it wasn't long, but he had a 2 month stretch with the Red Sox a few years back where he was legit. So
Listener of the show, Nick Bain, gets pissed off at me, but I send him tweets of how bad the Red Sox are. Not me posting it. I'm
White
just,
Sox,
or White Sox are sending it to him,
now
and he gets mad at me. So I am messing with him because I'm a Cubs fan, and they are atrocious. Not the Cubs. I mean, Cubs aren't great, but White Sox are atrocious.
I've got a stat for you. Since March 1st, the Boston Celtics have won 32 games, and the Chicago White Sox have won 33.
I saw that. That's all. That's crazy and awful and atrocious. Nick Bain, the White Sox are atrocious. I know you know that, but I'm telling you again. But
Sad.
it warms my heart. I hate the White Sox. No, I shouldn't say hate. I don't really care that much about them, but it's not like they're Alabama or Georgia or Florida or anything. Well, let's move on quickly. Harb's wore out. I'm tired. um, Harbin, you weren't at the game yesterday. Did you get to watch any of it?
Did I watched the majority of the first half on my phone, and then a little bit here and there at the second half. That was brutality, is what that was. Also, I've got to address this. I wasn't on Twitter much during the game. I'm sure it got spoken about. Kent State must have pissed off Josh Heupel before the game. That's the only explanation I have for this because non-biasedly, it's an extremely chicken shit move. You kick an onside up 30 to nothing in the first quarter. That's I don't think you just do that practicing the play. I really don't.
So I don't know. I've not heard, and I'm not really looked to see if, excuse me, if Josh Heupel's addressed this or not, but I had heard that either he said or Turbyville said, somebody said that they saw, and it was, you go back and look, the Kent State formation's got a huge hole in it on the right side, and Turbyville checked into that it wasn't that wasn't called coming out of the timeout. So I don't know if that's true. I need to look into that, but that is floating around out there. Regardless, why even check into that unless I get it? They might be trying to simulate it, for down the road or put something on film. But why at that point, against that team? I don't
It,
know. I don't know.
it was interesting for sure because we were at dinner and we're in Cartersville, Georgia, and every TV was on the Georgia Kentucky game, obviously. Well, we asked them to put one TV on the Tennessee game, and I don't know why, but this bar in the heart of Georgia country didn't have the SEC network. And they had direct TV. Like it was like they just didn't pay for that package. It was a
Right.
really odd move. But anyway, yeah, we were watching on our phone, and that was rough. I could have played center for Kent State too. I'll throw that part out there.
You know, I I I can't remember if I said this to Big Montana last night or who I said it to, but there at one point I kind of felt bad for him, but then I was like, you know what? We're paying them a lot of money for them to take this, so now I don't feel bad for him. But it was, I mean, it was bad. I honestly that I know that game was scheduled a while ago. That was awful. I mean, it was. I
Yeah,
mean, they had lost. I think I read to Sacred Heart, who's a FCS team the week before, and I think was it you tweeted or texted us last night? They go to Penn State, or somebody texted us last night. They go to Penn State next week. Like that's brutal.
yeah. Another thing. Now this is Jimmy Himes, but with this kind of stuff, Jimmy Himes is normally pretty good. Um, Jimmy Himes put out in the second half that Tennessee reached out to Kent State at halftime and proposed either a running clock or reduced quarters for the second half, and Kent State declined. Uh, so I mean, you got to respect the hard headedness out of that because I'd probably decline it too. But I mean, at that
Yeah,
point,
I mean,
I kind of thought we was going to put 100 on them, but
I like, yeah, I did too. I mean, we really woed it. Even putting the backups in, we didn't really woe it back until about we left when it was 68 to nothing. So I can't speak to anything that happened afterwards. But by the time I got home, it was 71 to nothing. And I think right when we pulled in the driveway, Kent State was kicking a field goal and missed it. Um, I don't know how we played after we left. I don't know if we just, like ran the football? Did we take a knee, or were we still running our off? I don't know. It's just it was. Look, I'm all about. I mean, that was good game to get some people some experience and playing time. That was about all that was good for last night. Um,
yeah,
Nico played. I thought Nico played pretty well. He made a couple more just eye-opening throws. I don't know if you saw one that he threw over the middle and fit it into a window about literally, if you're listening, about the size of my MacBook that I'm recording on. Um, but just you can tell that guy's different. and we'll learn a lot more next week, I think. First true road game, and we'll talk about OU in a minute, but um, guys different, and good football teams, championship top football teams have good quarterback play. And I think we got that right now. This team's just different. You just look at them out there on the field, the way they're playing right now, what they're doing to opponents, whether it be UTC, Kent State, or a top 25 ranked team in NC State. They just look different. And I think it starts at that QB position. I really do. I mean, there are other great players. You got James Pierce, Keenan Pilley. You got those guys out there. But it all starts, it's like in softball. Softball teams aren't good if they don't have a good pitcher. It's just a fact. And Tennessee looks like a different football team right now with Nico under center.
We do. I just think a lot of the position groups are just better than they were last year, though.
And we're deeper.
Yeah, we're like that's in my opinion, outside of quarterback play, depth is the number one thing you need to be for championship contender. That's what kind of held us back in 22 a little bit, like still kind of
Yep.
fighting the scholarship limitations and whatnot. We had a ton of talent on the first 22, but when they came out, you could tell, you know. But now, for example, if James Pierce Jr. comes out of the game, it's harder to tell that he's not out there because we actually have a cognitive second unit. And that's something, in my opinion, that we haven't had in over 15 years, 16, 17 years, And for me, that's the biggest thing. And we've just been dominating both lines of scrimmage.
Yeah.
The front seven is in contention of one of the best in the country. And I don't think that's an exaggeration at this point. They're at least top five. Our offensive line is very experienced. They've been playing very good. That's opened up the run game, which has helped a lot for Nico. A lot of people want to give Nico a lot of credit. If Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop weren't running the ball like they are right now, it'd be a lot harder on them. But yeah, it's just been we've done exactly what we need to do and then some through these first three games. And you know me, I try my best not to get my hopes up too much, but it looks pretty darn good, Nease.
Yeah. I got some text from some listeners last night. Isaiah Keck being one of them. He's like, Nease, and I don't want to get into this whole conversation because it's talking about the whole season. He said, how do we not go 11-1? But I see that's where I kind of draw a line. I'm like, man, I'm only looking at Oklahoma coming up, but it's hard not to think like that as a fan when you see Tennessee score 37 points in the first quarter. I don't care against who it's against. That's it, this team just is playing that well right now, and they just look different, like we said. But they can't, and we as fans should know better. And I'm not like getting on Zay or anything, but we should know better than look ahead because this university, not just the football program, has a tendency to, I don't want to say choke, but fall short when things are looking like it's going to go their way. So Tennessee has a huge opportunity this weekend, this coming weekend at Oklahoma, Memorial Stadium, Norman, Oklahoma, ABC. Game day is going to be there. 7:30, Fowler, Herb Street, Holly Rowe is going to be there. Like, this is big time. I was just looking before we got on here, Harbin. I looked earlier this afternoon. So I think we talked about this at the start of the season. This was, I think, OU favored pretty much 50-50 game top deal. That has completely flipped in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Tennessee this afternoon opened at 6.5. It's already up to -8. FPI has Tennessee 71.2% chance to win on the road. in Norman, Oklahoma. Not an easy place to play. I'm not saying it's
It's game day
Arrowhead's
there.
with game day there. I'm not saying it's Arrowhead Stadium or anything, but I went there in 2014 and we weren't good, and it was loud as it could be when we were there. So it's not an easy place to play, but the numbers and everything, analytics and numbers, I'm big on that. Say Tennessee should win this game, and they almost say Tennessee should win this game by a couple scores. What do you think?
Well, if you just flash back a month ago, just right before the season started, we were a 5.5 point underdog,
Yeah.
you and I think everybody felt like this game was a toss up at best. I think a lot of people thought that we would lose a tight one over there, which is still very much possible. Not saying that whatsoever. Um, but seeing Oklahoma's struggles the past couple weeks with Houston and Tulane, uh, they pretty much won on a safety against Houston. The offense did not look good. And against Tulane, which Tulane is not a bad team. I think
Mm-mm.
they're a pretty damn good group of five team. Um, but they didn't. I think what they end up winning by 15, 2 touchdowns.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily very impressive. Um, wasn't like they had to come from behind to win, but
Mm-mm.
they did what they needed to do. They got the win. But just eye test wise, we've looked much better than Oklahoma has, and I think that's why the line has swung nearly 2 touchdowns. Um, which that's wild. That's damn near unheard of. Um,
Yeah.
but it is wild because like if you'd have told me even 2 weeks ago, like before we played North Carolina State, if we'd be rolling into Oklahoma nearly 10-point favorites, I'd have told you you hit your head on something.
Yeah. That line may go up this week, Harbin.
I think it will because I think a lot of people are going to see how much that line has moved, and they're going to be like, "Well, there's a reason it's moved that much," and they're going to hammer it, and it's going to make that line go up. I guarantee it'll be at least 9.5 by kick. I really do.
That's
Um,
I just got a text from Burkhart a minute
that's
ago.
scary. That's scary to
Yeah.
me.
He just said Tennessee is -8 on the road. Wow, was his exact wording. I we talked about this game in the preview. Of course, many of y'all didn't listen or view that episode, but if you did, you heard us talk about how this is a huge game, and it still is. I'm not saying that it's not because of the point spread or anything, but it's a huge game for Tennessee because you win this game, you're 4-0 heading into a bye, heading to Arkansas, who played horribly against UAB. I think they won, but there was a struggle. I still don't think Arkansas almost beat Oklahoma State. They beat Pine Bluff, so they're not great. Um, you win this game, you have a real chance to be 6-0 heading to Alabama or heading with Alabama heading here. So this is a huge game. As big as that NC State game was, and it was, this game's even bigger than that because it's an SEC game. It's Oklahoma's first SEC game. It's a night game. Josh Heupel returning to Oklahoma where he won a national title, finished second in the Heisman. He's got a chip on his shoulder. It's a huge game for the rest of the season. Tennessee loses this game. I'm not saying the season's a wash, but playoff hopes might be, well, it's going to be hard. I shouldn't say out the window because a lot could happen. We've seen college football this year. It's almost I kind of get that 2007 vibe a little bit, Harbin, with how things are so topsy turvy with some of these games right now. But Tennessee wins this game, they are in prime time position going the rest of the way. They lose it, it's going to be an uphill climb to make that playoff. You can still have a pretty good season, but you've left something on the table, I feel like. So um, Tennessee needs to come out here, take care of business, play, as Heupel says, complimentary football. Don't turn the football over. Do what you got to do. Get out of there and come back home.
That's right. And let's not forget that Heupel's alma mater ran him out of town when he was offensive coordinator there. You can forgive. By God, he don't seem like somebody that forgets.
Do you
Uh,
think? Do you think they scored 71 like last night to send a message to Oklahoma, like we are here, we are coming?
I mean, maybe a little, but no, I don't think so. Which Tennessee, not surprisingly, has caught some flack for scoring 71, even though we only scored, what, 6 or 13 points in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Day made a good point. I'm not going to steal his point without giving him credit for it. Ole Miss runs it up all the time. They drop
Yeah.
77 every time they play an inferior opponent, and it's totally fine because Lane Kiffin's fun. Um, by God, Tennessee puts up 70. It's the most disrespectful thing of all
No, no,
time.
no.
Um, I don't know. I Part of it may have been a message, but I think it was that comment either at halftime or after the game when Heupel was like, "Everybody is nameless, faceless opponents." I don't believe that whatsoever. You can say that when you're playing in Kent State or at Chattanooga to keep your guys fired up, but he knows exactly who he's playing next week. And let's not act like he doesn't. You know, he's taken this game extremely personally. And for that reason, because like we've talked about this multiple times, we always have a slip up on the road under Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked. I would like legitimately shocked if we came out and laid an egg against Oklahoma. I really do. I think he will have them guys as fired up as humanly possible. And I think they'll be fired up for him because obviously the players respect him a lot and they know how much this game means to him. And just to simplify everything, that might be part of the reason that the line is flipped so much.
We talked like after that Florida game last year, we all felt like Tennessee pissed down their leg in the swamp last year. Josh Heupel looked nervous on the sidelines. I'm not saying he was, but his body language, his emotions, he looked nervous. The team played tight, nervous. He coached tight and nervous. It kind of reminded me of Philip Fulmer back in the day when Tennessee would go into a big game, except for Alabama, because he had a pretty good track record against Alabama. But they'd play Florida. It was like they were ultra tight all the time, and it had that look last year. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing next Saturday night is do they come out with a confidence and a swagger, or do they come out tight? I hope they don't, because if they do, they're going to be asking for trouble. But I don't get that vibe from this team, especially with the quarterback we got, just how even killed he is. Nothing bothers him. I don't get
Well,
that vibe.
we'll see about that. This is his first true road game. Um, I mean, everybody knows the storylines. Nico's first road game. It's Oklahoma's first SEC game. Apple's alma mater. Like, there's a lot of storylines playing. We've talked about that ad nauseum all summer. Um, but I think the start to this game, like the first half of the first quarter, in my opinion, is arguably the most important 7 or 8 minutes of this game. Um, if we go out there and get a false start and go 3 and out, let Oklahoma go right down the field on us, like we could be in trouble, because we would definitely find out how our guys are going to respond to that. But if we come down and we run it right down their damn throat, and Nico makes a couple throws on the first drive, and we go right down the field, it might break them. They might be like, "We're in over our head."
Yeah. I want to
Uh,
see Tennessee, as my Alexa tells me the weather forecast for tomorrow. I want to see Tennessee come out and establish the run right out of the gate. Try to pound that rock down the field. Let Nico mix in some passes. set the tone early?
Will Cam Seldon be back?
That is a great question. I mean, he did not obviously play, and there was no need for him to play last night. I've not seen or heard anything on that, so that is a storyline to watch next week. Listen, Deshaun Bishop's been good. And of course, anybody looked good last night against Kent State, but I'm not as worried as I was maybe a couple weeks ago. I not with the production per se. I'm just worried about depth. Like, what if something happens to Sampson? What if something happens to Bishop when he's in there? Who do they go to? Peyton Lewis? Okay. We have nothing. We don't just have much proven depth behind these guys. I'm not saying they can't play, but we just haven't seen them in a game or a situation like this. So a lot of unproven talent back there. It would be nice to have Selden back, although he's himself not very proven, but he's been around. He's been in the program for a couple years now. He's gone through everything. So it would be nice to get him back. Hopefully he is back, but I have not heard anything. So Harbin, question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you're good.
I
You're
was
good.
just going to say, I was going to ask in lieu of picking games this week, does Tennessee win? First question, does Tennessee win?
Yes.
Do they cover?
There's gonna be a lot of money on the Vols.
That line's going to get off. I still think it's going to go up a couple points by the end of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah.
it. I say they cover. I'm feeling honestly. I was texting Walker earlier today.
I'm not making the same mistake I did with North Carolina State game. I said it was gonna be a dogfight and we may or may not cover. We're gonna cover. I'm not getting excited, but I think we're pretty darn good.
So I was
I don't
talking.
think they can score with us.
Right. I was talking to Walker today, and he was like, "Don't count your." He said, "Don't count chicks." I think he meant don't count your chickens before they hatch. But he said, "Don't be overconfident." I said, "I'm not overconfident. I'm just very confident that Tennessee's a better football team than Oklahoma, which I think most people think they are right now." And I just think Oklahoma's got a lot of flaws. Their offensive line's not very good. Our defensive line is very good. Our front seven is way better than their front seven. They've got a good quarterback. He can move in the pocket a little bit, move outside of the pocket and run, but he's not a game breaker. You know, he's not a talent like Nico is. So I think Tennessee wins by about 17 or 20, to be honest. I think they pull away late, leave Oklahoma in the dust, and they take care of business. We'll
I do too.
see. Yeah, I like it. Um, so we both got Tennessee winning, moving to 4-0. I can't remember. Did you pick Tennessee to win this game in the preseason? I know I did. I can't remember if you did or not. I'd have to go back and look.
I think I had us losing this game and beating Alabama.
That's right, you did. So you've
Yeah.
changed since a month or so ago, which happens because
Well, when you
we've got some groundwork here. So
well, I mean, we haven't given up an offensive touchdown this year.
no,
Like this calendar year at
yeah,
that.
literally. I mean, what is it up to now? 16 quarters,
Yeah, I
four,
guess
4, 8, 12, 16. Yeah, 16 straight quarters
I think it's
without giving up.
technically 15 because the second half of the Vandy game, I don't think we gave up anything.
Yeah, you're
So,
right. That may be true. I don't know. We know it's at least 16. That's a lot of quarters. I don't care who you're playing.
yeah.
I mean, I've seen us play a lot of teams, obviously, over the years. And no matter how good we are and how bad they always score at some point during the game, a touchdown most of the time. That has not happened in what, 9 months? Of course, we didn't play for several of those months, but literally 9 months, we've not given up a touchdown. So, um, Big game this weekend. I think Undy is going out there, Landry and some of their buddies are going out there. So they're taking the show on the road, taking the fight to the Sooners. Good luck to them. Sorry, I'm not there with you. I'm going to Arkansas here in a couple weeks, so I'll be taking the show on the road for that one. But if you're going to Oklahoma, I think Jacob Pratt, um, buddy of mine from high school, listener to the show, I think he'll be up there. So you boys represent the Volunteers in YY8 while you're there.
JWTDG.
JWTDG. Tweet it, Facebook it, Instagram it, whatever you want to do. Quickly, Harbin, before we go, look at some other games. But looking back at last week, this past weekend, SEC, um, I'm trying to look at the games we picked. We took, let's see, upset Georgia State at Turner Field beats Vanderbilt. I think we all picked Vandy to cover. They did not. They lost. And Georgia State, the few fans that were there, stormed the field on Vanderbilt. I did not think I would ever see that. I don't know
No,
if
that
I don't know.
was
I don't know if I'm Vandy how I feel about that, but
that's embarrassing.
it's embarrassing.
But
But
I think it says more about Virginia Tech.
yeah, how bad are they?
A lot of people were fairly high on them this year.
Let's see. Kentucky loses to Georgia 13-12. That line was like 23 and a half. Obviously, Georgia did not cover. That was a dogfight. I didn't get to see much of the game. I saw the last 5 or 6 minutes. Not sure what happened there. I don't know if you saw any of it. I think you said it was on at the place you guys were at last night, but that was surprising, as bad as Kentucky looked against South Carolina the week before.
Yeah, but I was talking to some Georgia fans, and they made a fairly decent point um, to not act like the sky is falling. I think this makes 3 or 4 years in a row that
Yeah,
they severely struggled in their first road conference game, and they squeaked by and found a way. Um, and they really don't light it up in Lexington for whatever reason. They win, they pull it out. Like I want to say 2 years ago, they beat them like 16-3 or something. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird place to play for them.
that's
I don't know.
must be. Other games, Ole Miss destroyed Wake Forest 46. Alabama destroyed Wisconsin 42-10. Texas Longhorns beat San Antonio 56-7. Quinn Ewers got hurt. We saw Arch Manning. Let's see here. Missouri fins off Boston College 27-21. That was one of our game picks, along with Alabama. I think that line was like 16 and a half. Missouri, they obviously did not cover. I think Jake and I took Boston College. I can't remember if you did or not. I've come
I took
very unprepared tonight. So,
I took
okay. Other one was LSU South Carolina. LSU comes back from way down to win 36-33 and crushes South Carolina's hopes and dreams. Uh, Texas A&M took care of business 33-20 over Florida. I heard there was or it was reported by On3 late last night that the Board of Regents had scheduled a meeting for this morning at the University of Florida. So everybody was kind of anticipating around lunchtime that there was going to be news coming out that Billy Napier was fired. I've not seen that today, so he must still be employed with the Gators. We mentioned Arkansas earlier, 37-27 over UAB. They trailed a lot of that game. Auburn 45-19 over New Mexico. This was Mississippi State paid Toledo $1.2 million to play him in Starkville. They lost 41-17 to the Rockets. The bottom of the SEC is bad. It is bad.
Yeah, it
But
is.
any surprises out of those games I mentioned very quickly?
Well, definitely Toledo, Mississippi State. Um, I think I think you'd be a major liar if you saw that one coming. Um, and honestly, this shouldn't be a surprise, but it is the Vandy game. That kind of shocked me. It shouldn't because it's Vandy, but they had to transfer quarterback, beat a quality opponent first week. Then they go to not Turner Field, but what's the other one?
Center Park Stadium.
Yeah, they go down there and you just get straight up beat. Which I guess we can't talk too much about losing to Georgia State. Is what it is. Um, yeah, that's a
That is wild. They have 2 wins against SEC schools,
yeah.
and they're both from the state of Tennessee.
Got our number.
Wow. Don't invite them to the conference.
No, absolutely not. They'll
Let's
run
not
away.
do that. So this week, just quickly, this week's games, outside of the Tennessee Oklahoma game in the SEC, you've got Florida at Mississippi State. Maybe Florida's waiting to see if Sunbelt Billy goes on the road and loses to that team. Maybe they can him after that one. It looks like Florida's favored by 4.5. Ohio is at Kentucky. Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn favored by 3.5. UCLA at LSU. LSU favored 22.5. UCLA sucks. They lost badly to Indiana. Vandy at Missouri. Missouri favored by 21. Bowling Green at Texas A&M. Texas A&M minus 23. The Zips of Akron at South Carolina. South Carolina favored by 27. Georgia Southern at Ole Miss. Ole Miss by 36.5. And Louisiana Monroe at Texas. Texas favored by 45 points. Any games you're interested in there? Not a good slate for the SEC this weekend.
No, I'm laser focused on the Sooners. Be 100% honest with you. That's
I like it.
got tunnel vision.
I'm
That's all, that's all I've got.
trying to find the top 25. There's a ranked game Friday night, Illinois at Nebraska. It looks like it might be about it this weekend. On the national stage, you got USC at Michigan. So that's number 11, USC at Michigan. USC favored by 5.5. Memphis at Navy. Memphis coming off a big win at Florida State. Thank you very much. I took them in my pick sheet this week. Harb, it's pretty slim pickings this week in college football. I mean, Tennessee's it. Tennessee, Oklahoma is the game of the week. There is, besides Illinois, Nebraska, NC State's at Clemson Saturday afternoon. That's it. I mean,
That
it's
game
a
could be interesting. I think that'll tell us more about Clemson than it
says
will about
says
State.
Clemson's favored by 16.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, indeed.
Okay. Also, I'm going to pay
Oh,
a little attention to that Florida Mississippi State game
yeah.
because if Florida struggles or if they lose, that tells me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators. Um, which
Yeah,
I have a pretty good idea of what I know about them, but
you're right. That's probably the only other big storyline in the SEC this weekend. Does Florida go down there and play better, take care of business against Mississippi State? Do they go down there and struggle and find a way to win, or do they go down there and lose? If they go down there and lose, I don't think Billy Napier's going to be the head coach on Sunday. I honestly don't. That's probably the other game in this conference this weekend to keep an eye on. If they win, I think he's sticking around another week. If they lose, I just don't see how they move on with him. I don't know what they gain by firing him at this point in the season, but I think they're just going to have had enough of it. things are starting to spiral out of control, which it could not happen to a nicer bunch of people. Um, that is one of the most undeserving fan bases I've ever seen in my life. They don't travel, they don't turn out for home games 3/4 of the time. Um, they've had so much success in all these sports over the last 20, 25 years, 30 years. One of the most undeserving fan bases I've ever seen. So couldn't happen to a nicer bunch. But Harbin, you got any haters, losers of the week? I've got one.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna actually you do yours first because I
Okay.
want to steal yours.
So mine is former Tennessee athletics director, current Wake Forest athletics director. Did I steal yours?
I was between two, and that
Okay. Well, glad I went first. John Curry. So Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss destroys Wake Forest last night. They have a home and home contract set up. Ole Miss plays at Wake this year, and I think they return next year to Oxford. Well, Lane Kiffin apparently learned after the game that John Curry had told him they were not returning to Ole Miss next year. They're just going to buy out the deal. And it kind of puts Ole Miss in a precarious position because the schedule's already like opponents are set for next year. So now they're going to have to go out and find, which I'm sure they can find a buy game, a play game or a buy game to pay an opponent. But kind of puts them in a tough spot. But Lane Kiffin pretty much just called him out in a press conference last night. I've never been a big John Curry fan. I think he's a weasel. Um, he's my hater and loser of the week. That's chicken shit.
That's very chicken shit.
Like,
Uh,
like do that in the off season. Don't do it. Don't tell him right in the middle of the. If that happened, that is pure chicken shit.
I agree. My hater and loser. I may not get the exact name correct, but my hater and loser is the Boomer Schooner podcast. I think that's the name of it. I don't care about them enough to fact check it. They had an episode that got circulated amongst Vol Twitter that whoever the coach for the Oklahoma Sooners was, if he ever lost to Josh Heupel, he should be fired before he left the field. They still doubt Josh Heupel. They said their offense was atrocious when he was there, and that's why they ran him out of town. Well, if you look at his track record since he left University or Oklahoma, um, more than likely it wasn't his fault. Um, when
Yeah,
he was when he was offensive coordinator at Missouri was when Drew Lock was tearing up the SEC. He goes to UCF, obviously has great success. He's turned Tennessee around with some great offenses. Um, all I'm saying is they might have signed Brent Venables' death warrant. Brent Venables may get fired Sunday morning.
well, by what they've said, they have to fire him.
According to what they say, this is the must-win game
That's
for
a
Brent Venables.
fire. Losing to Josh Heupel is apparently a fireable offense. I thought it was losing to Derek Dooley or Butch Jones, but I guess not.
Now, there might be 10 or 11 coaches get fired this year.
Yeah, maybe. We've
Uh,
already put 3 on the block, so
yeah, yeah.
that's wild.
What a stupid comment.
Yeah, what this dumb. There's a lot of stupid people out there that are Harbin.
That's correct.
That's why we have a haters and losers segment. They keep feeding us stuff just on a platter every week.
Over platter.
I don't know if you saw this, Harbin. It just popped up. There was a Cowboys fan apparently airdropped this to people's phones in Cowboys Stadium. And it says, if we don't fire Mike McCarthy, I'm beating TF out of everybody in here. So I wondered, they hadn't fired him, so I wonder if he beat the TF out of everybody.
I don't know.
I didn't know if you'd seen
Also,
that or not.
didn't.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine sitting in a stadium and getting airdropped something like that, and you're looking at it like, huh? Maybe I should do that in Neyland sometime.
Also, the word going around the internet is that Florida State will not win a game until that Florida State fan eats dog poop.
They can't.
It's the curse of the turd.
Yeah, he's gonna have if he wants his school to win a game, he's gonna have to eat it.
And as soon as he does, I will put too much money on Florida State to win their next game because it's gonna happen.
That's wild. Like that guy's gone completely. I think they found him or found out who he is, but nobody's been able to locate him, maybe or something. I don't know. But he wiped all of his social media. He's gone,
Yeah.
apparently. So something to keep an eye on there. Last thing for me, Harbin. Great tailgate, by the way. We hated you weren't there, but earlier in the week didn't look like there was going to be many there. And by the time we got down there, we had about 25 people or so, maybe more than that swing by. So pretty good tailgate. Um, we got to work out some stuff for God, Nat flying around here. We got to work out some stuff for the Florida game. We might move not garages, but move locations in the garage. There was a lot of people there yesterday with tents everywhere, and they tell you you can't put tents up in spaces that are open. There was tents in spaces that were open yesterday all over the place. So that spot we usually park toward Thompson Bowling, we may move to the other side because there was a lot more open space over there. Plus, it's in the shade, so that's a bonus. Only thing is you don't get the view of the stadium like we've got. So we're gonna do some planning, logistical stuff, and we're gonna do the tailgate right this time. We've not done it up to YY8 standards the first two games, but we got a lot of time to plan here before the October 5th. No, sorry, October 12th game against Florida. So stay tuned for that. And also, they're 0 for 2, Harbin. They missed again. They tried to take out Trump today. I don't know if you saw that or not. And I tried to tell everybody on here a few weeks ago they would try it again, and here we are. And they'll do it again. I promise you, it's coming again. But some wacko nut job tried to shoot at him with an AK-47 on the golf course, dropped it and ran, and they followed him and got him. But they're scared to death of him, Harbin.
It's unreal.
Unreal. Unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable.
Seriously, it's funny. We were at the tailgate yesterday, and I was talking to Jersey Kate and her friend Bree, and she just texted me. I forgot about it. Bree did. I literally just said yesterday, I said, "You all watch. They will try to take him out again." And she texted me this afternoon and she said, "I can't believe you were just talking about that yesterday." I said, "I've been trying to tell people for a while it's going to happen again, and here we are." So, um, never surrender, Harbin. Never give up. Fight, fight. All right, I'm out of here. You got anything before we go? Harbin has frozen. Are you there?
Oh, uh, yeah, I'm here. Are you
There
here?
you go. You're here. You're good.
All right. Shout out to friend of the show or two friends of the show, Evan and Holland Collins. Um, their gender reveal was this evening. She's pregnant with twins, by the way, and they're having a baby boy and a
Neutral?
baby.
They're not neutral?
I don't know what that means.
Gender neutral.
Oh, no, they're
Well,
uh,
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. What are they having?
they're having a boy and a girl. So they're having
Oh,
so they're
wow.
having
Congratulations.
having one of each. Congratulations to them. I can't wait to play uncle to those two little children. So
Congratulations. I don't know Holland all that well, but Evan, shout out to both of y'all. Um, let's
that's all.
see. Oh, I have one shout out. I missed it a couple weeks ago. A guy I play softball with, Trout. I bet a lot of people on here know who he is, but he named me over George Clooney as I don't know, is George Clooney married? I don't know, but the sexiest single man in America. a couple weeks ago. While I'm playing softball, I'm pitching on the mound. He says this, announces it to the 15 people that were at the park. So shout out to him.
Good
I
for you.
said over, I looked at him and said, even over George Clooney. And he's like, oh yeah, niece.
Good for you.
So
Things
there
are
you
looking
go.
up.
Yeah, Trout trying to boost me up here. So shout out to Trout.
Shout out Trout.
If you know Trout, that's classic Trout right there. We hear some we
Correct.
hear some wild stuff out of him in the dugout every week. Uh, all right. Well, I'm not going to Norman. Harbin's not going to Norman, so we'll be watching it from the house somewhere. So wherever you guys are watching it from, it's a big game this weekend. So fasten your safety belts, get them tight. We need this win big time. If Tennessee wants to do what they want to do, I've said it, they got to win games like this. And this is a huge opportunity for Tennessee coming up. So, um, here we go, Harbin. It's big,
Laser focused.
laser focused. Oh, yeah, quickly, one more shout out. I know he doesn't play at Tennessee, but he does listen to the show. He's a friend of the show. Chandler Wilson, former Hornets quarterback. Um, got his first start for the VMI cadets at Georgia Tech. I did not look this score up. I can imagine it didn't probably go the cadets way or cadets, however they say it. But shout out to him. I believe I was told by his grandfather that he is which I don't know who else it would have been, the first Hornet to ever start a game against a D1 opponent in college football. I think I'm right. So that's big time for Little Oak Carter High School. So shout out to Chandler. Hornets are on the road this week. They're 3-1. Huge game Thursday night, rivalry Thursday at Halls. Halls supposedly has it. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going yet or not, but it's a road game, so I do not have to announce it. I've had 3 straight home games. My voice is tired, Harbin. A lot of talking. So um,
Uh, Jake and I rolled up to the game Friday night, and I wouldn't call it rusty. Maybe it was 3 home games in a row. You tripped up on your words a handful of times.
really,
Yeah, you chuckled and said sorry. I think at least 5 times.
really.
You got the names backwards or mispronunciation, what have
Oh,
you.
so there was one time I announced the wrong player. Um, okay, what it was Carter was on offense, and for some reason I saw number 2 for South Dual, and I read his name. I said I think it was Reynolds carries the football, and everybody in the box is like, "What?" And I said, "Sorry, that's Jody Scruggs carries the football." So yeah, that was one time I did mess up. The other time, the South Dual band, I had to read their script, and at the end of it, it says wait for drum major to get up on the platform or whatever that thing is. He will turn around and look at me, and when he does that, I'm supposed to say, "Drum major, are you ready?" And looking back on it, I should have said, "Are you ready?" like Triple H, but I didn't. But he turns around and I say, "Drum major, are you ready?" And he does this thing apparently that drum majors do in bands where they do this and they salute you. I saluted him back from the press box. And I guess he saw me. I don't know. Kid, I probably blew his mind when I did that, but I gave him a huge salute back. Everybody in the box was like, "Did you just salute him?" I said, "Yeah, he saluted me." So
Mutual respect.
I just saluting him back. Somebody salutes me, I salute him back. It's like somebody waving at you when you're driving down the road. Not enough people do that anymore. You're driving down the road, I wave at people. Most people won't wave back at you anymore. They do at some places in Mascot and Cott County, but God, bugs everywhere in here, Harbin.
Unbelievable.
Well, let me get off here. So, appreciate you joining us. We'll try to get a special guest on next week. Get the picks going again. If you, like I said, if you're going to Norman, good luck. Fight on for us. take the fight to Oklahoma. And we'll be back next Sunday night, hopefully, to record and wrap up the Oklahoma game. Look forward to the bye week and then look forward to the Arkansas game coming up. So for Harbin, I'm Negative Nease, and we'll see you guys next week on the Section YY8 podcast.